Hey there, fishing brothers and sisters. Zach Draskovic here. Today I'm going to take you on a river adventure. I'm heading to a place on the river that I've never been before. Come on with me. We're going to have fun. Let's load the boat. There we go. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Spot a potipus right there. Boom. That's where it starts. Yes. Look at that fish. That is a chomp. I had a blast on the water today. River fishing in late winter time is very fun. How did I find these fish in a section of the river that I had never been before? Well, river fishing in cold water periods is very simple. These fish are going to try to position themselves out of the current. They're not going to waste their energy out there in that fast moving water. So all you have to do to locate these fish is find anything that's sticking out into the river that's creating some current break. Now that could be anything from logs or a tree that's fallen down into the water, some kind of man-made structure protruding into the lake, a section of rock that sticks out a little bit further, a piece of bluff wall that's collapsed into the water. Any one of these things could possibly be holding fish. For me, the key today was rock, which is not surprising because in the cold weather, the rock will hold heat a little bit. Now, I did go and try some of these laydowns that were sticking out into the water, but those all had bluegill and crappie in them for the most part. To find the best current breaks, these best eddies that are going to hold the most fish, isolated is usually easier to catch these fish on. Now, if you have a giant current break, a giant eddy, yeah, there's going to be fish there for sure. But if you have a long piece of structure or a large piece of cover to fish, it's going to take a lot longer to break it down. So if you find something isolated, that's going to quickly tell you if there's fish in the area and if they're holding on that type of cover. To find these good current breaks, these good eddies that are going to have fish, it's very easy. You can just drive down the river and you can look for these bluff walls that have some irregularities in them, a rock or wood sticking out into the lake. If you like to do your homework beforehand, you can always pull up Navionics, and these areas are going to be easy to find. How are these bass positioned in relating to the current? Now, I told you these fish in the wintertime are going to be out of the current, but they're not necessarily going to be really far from it. These fish were right on the edge of the current. Now, in the summertime, if you have a piece of structure or a rock or a bridge piling, these fish will set up on the eddy on the front side of it. Right now, these fish were more relating to the seam. They weren't on the front side of it. They were just along the edge of the seam. As I moved further away from the current seam and started fishing some of the still water that had the best current break, I found my bass bite died off. It doesn't mean that they weren't there, but they were definitely not biting for me this day. When I was fishing that slack water, I was catching more bluegill and crappie. So if that's what you're targeting in the river, fish the stillest water, and that'll improve your success. I fished the river because sometimes the lake can be a little bit tough in the cold water periods. Sure, in the lake you're gonna have bigger sacks. You're not often gonna pull a 20 or 30 pound limit from the river, but these river fish are gonna be positioned in a much easier way for you to catch. They're easier to locate. There is a lot of places that those fish could be in the lake. In the river, they're gonna have to set up in the current breaks, and that's how, even though I'd never been to this section of river before, I was able to locate and catch fish very quickly. How did I fish this rock? Early in the day, I was catching them shallower on a red crankbait. It was a DT6 I was using, but this bite quickly went away and I had to more finesse these fish. I used a shaky head when I needed something weedless, but most of my fish today came on a Ned rig and a small swim bait. I was actually having fun with some small crappie and bluegill when I discovered these spotted bass. We're just loving that little tiny swim bait. Spotted bass and smallmouth bass will sometimes key in on these little tiny baits and lures and hit them surprisingly well. So if your river has a lot of spotted bass or smallmouth on it, don't be afraid that you're fishing too small. These fish can really target small baits very well. Since the area I was fishing had mostly spotted bass and smallmouth, I was using a Ned rig with a chartreuse head, and I put a little chartreuse on the tail of my swim bait. If you don't know this, something about chartreuse just drives those spotted bass and smallmouth crazy. If you have them in your fishery and you want to catch them, add a little bit of chartreuse or even use a solid chartreuse lure. I fished places that you could visually see with your eyes. I didn't have time to do a bunch of side scanning or down imaging. I'm still at a point where I can't fish for very long. I need to locate fish quickly, and finding these obvious spots was the quickest way for me to catch some fish. Go down the bank and use your side scan, use your down imaging, and look for the same things I talked about when you're looking with your eyes. You're trying to look for rock piles, a big boulder sticking up, a laydown tree that's submerged. They'll still create those same eddies, those current breaks that these fish are going to position on, and those fish are going to have a little bit less pressure. So you might find that those are harder to find, but they may hold bigger fish and more fish that aren't receiving the same amount of pressure as the fish in the more obvious locations. If you fish a very pressured body of water, that's something that may be worth the time to go out and do. I hope you learned something today and I helped you catch more fish. If you liked my video, please hit that thumbs up button, subscribe, leave a comment down below. If you have questions about anything or have requests for future videos, I'd love to hear from you.